Welcome back, everyone. Today, we'll be diving into one of the most beloved films of all time, The Shawshank Redemption. This gripping tale, based on a Stephen King novella, follows the life of Andy Dufresne, a banker who is wrongfully convicted of murder and sentenced to life in the Shawshank prison. We'll walk you through Andy's journey, his relationships, and the profound impact he has on the prison community. Without giving away the climax, let's take a closer look at his life in Shawshank and how he changes those around him. Our story begins in 1947, where Andy Dufresne, a quiet, stoic banker, is convicted of murdering his wife and her lover, despite his insistence of innocence. He's sentenced to 2 life sentences at Shawshank State Penitentiary. His demeanor contrasts starkly with the rough environment of the prison. The arrival scene introduces the brutal reality of Shawshank, a place filled with hardened criminals, ruled by fear, and controlled by corrupt prison guards. Andy meets Ellis "Red" Redding, the prison's go-to man for smuggled goods. Red, played by the iconic Morgan Freeman, has been at Shawshank for decades and is known for his resourcefulness. Red narrates much of the film, and through his eyes, we see Andy's introduction to life in prison. At first, Andy keeps to himself, but over time, he starts to build relationships. Red becomes Andy's closest friend. Red is initially skeptical of Andy, but he admires his resilience. In a key moment, Andy approaches Red, asking him to procure a small rock hammer. Red obliges, puzzled by Andy's quiet hobby of collecting and sculpting rocks. The request seems insignificant, but it marks the beginning of their deep bond. Meanwhile, Andy faces constant threats from the Sisters, a group of violent inmates. These encounters are difficult for Andy, but he remains steadfast, showing remarkable patience and inner strength. His spirit is tested, but not broken. One of the pivotal moments comes when Andy and a group of inmates are tarring the roof of a factory inside the prison. While overhearing a conversation between the guards, Andy learns that Captain Hadley, a brutal prison guard, has inherited a large sum of money but is worried about the taxes. Seizing the opportunity, Andy risks his life by offering to help Hadley legally shelter his inheritance, asking for just 3 beers for each of his fellow workers in return. This act of selflessness earns Andy some respect from both the inmates and the guards. The scene ends with the prisoners sitting on the rooftop, enjoying cold beers and a rare moment of freedom. Through small victories like this, Andy's influence starts to grow, and he gradually gains favor within Shawshank. Andy's character is further revealed when he starts working in the prison library under an old inmate named Brooks Hatlin. Not content with the limited resources, Andy begins writing letters to the state government, requesting books and funds to improve the library. His persistence pays off after years of being ignored. Eventually, the prison receives donations of books, music, and other resources. Andy transforms the library into a hub of education for the inmates, teaching them how to read and even helping some earn their high school diplomas. This act demonstrates Andy's belief in hope, education, and the potential for rehabilitation, themes that are central to the story. In the later part of Andy's time at Shawshank, a young inmate named Tommy Williams arrives. Tommy is a small-time criminal with a charismatic personality, and he quickly becomes part of Andy and Red's circle. Tommy's introduction brings about a significant shift in the story. After Andy helps Tommy learn to read and pass his GED, Tommy reveals a crucial piece of information. He confesses that during a prior stint in another prison, he met a man who bragged about killing a woman and her lover, framing the woman's husband for the crime. This revelation leads Andy to believe that the real killer of his wife is out there, and he hopes to finally prove his innocence. Parallel to Andy's personal journey is the exposure of corruption within Shawshank. Warden Samuel Norton, who runs the prison, is deeply corrupt. He uses the prisoners as a labor force for personal profit, making shady deals with local contractors and taking bribes. Andy, with his banking expertise, is forced to help Norton launder the illegal money. This puts Andy in a dangerous position. While he has protection from the guards due to his involvement in the scheme, his knowledge of Norton's criminal activities also makes him vulnerable. It's a delicate balance that Andy must navigate carefully. One of the most emotional subplots in the film revolves around Brooks Hatlin, the elderly librarian. After serving over 50 years in Shawshank, Brooks is finally paroled. But after spending so much of his life institutionalized, Brooks struggles to adjust to the outside world. His story highlights a tragic reality: many long-term inmates become so accustomed to prison life that they're unable to cope with freedom. Brooks' difficulty reintegrating into society touches on the theme of institutionalization. It's a sobering reminder of the challenges inmates face, even after they are released. Throughout his time in Shawshank, Andy never loses hope. He becomes a symbol of quiet resilience, inspiring others around him to believe in something beyond the prison walls. He's a man who never lets the harshness of his surroundings defeat him, embodying the theme of hope that runs throughout the film. Andy's influence is felt everywhere: in the library he builds, in the inmates he helps educate, and in the friendships he forms. His belief in redemption, not just for himself but for those around him, is unwavering. As we wrap up this recap, we see how Andy Dufresne's journey through Shawshank is not just about survival but about hope. His quiet strength, compassion, and refusal to give in to despair changed the lives of those around him, especially Red. The Shawshank Redemption is a powerful story of perseverance, redemption, and the human spirit's ability to endure even in the darkest of places. What makes this film so timeless is how it portrays the triumph of hope over adversity, and how even in a place as bleak as Shawshank, one man's spirit can light the way for others. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Be sure to watch the full film for the complete experience of Andy's story and the unforgettable conclusion.